Welcome and good afternoon, everyone. So cloud as a platform for innovation, automation, and agility. So that will be the discussion today. It is going to be a panel discussion. Let me quickly introduce the panel as well. So I myself is Shahan. I head the cloud practice at Millennium IT ESP. So the first panelist I am going to introduce is truly a veteran in the industry. He started his cloud journey back in 2006. Of course, it must have been a very significant year for him. So nevertheless, that's the same year which AWS launches EC2. So over the period of time, he had held many positions and worked with many companies around the globe, helping these enterprises to join the cloud journey in the form of advising and consultation. So one of the key motives or activities which he was involved in is to reduce the complexity on these engagements, like migration, maybe operations. So he kind of took it to a next level where he started his own product, which exactly does that, actually reduce the complexity. Then later on, formulate a company around it. So let me very warmly welcome Kanchana Wickremasinghe, who's the CEO and co-founder of Platform. So currently Kanchana is a resident of Melbourne, Australia. So I guess Kanchana, it's 4.5 hours ahead of us, right? It's a very good evening to you.
That's right. Thank you, Shahan. Yes, it's nearly 6:30. Yeah, just past 6:30. Thanks for the intro as well.
On the panel, Kanchana. So the next panelists represent the new generation of cloud. He's one of the best techies I have known in my career. He's a very skilled person with a lot of multi-cloud experience. Also a natural advocate to cloud technologies. So currently works for one of the most diverse financial market infrastructure providers in the world. So it will be very interesting to know how these giant companies embrace cloud, something we are really looking forward to discuss with him. So let me again welcome Tharindu Nanayakkara, who is a technical lead in cloud engineering at London Stock Exchange Group, LSEG. So Tharindu, welcome to the panel.
Thank you, Shahan. Happy to be here. Thank you for the introduction.
Thanks. So gents, since it's a very, having about 30 minutes for the session, we'll kind of dig deep into the title itself. So innovation, automation, and agility. So that is what we are going to discuss today. So the best way to learn anything would be to kind of, break it down to pieces and take them separately. So Kanchana, when we kind of talk about innovation, right, what does that truly mean to cloud? Like, is it used as a loose term as a marketing tactic, or how does it kind of correlate to the cloud and cloud platform?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Shahan. I think what I would like to do is firstly break down what innovation mean to me and a lot of the others. Innovation is not just creating a product or a platform, right? Innovation is what you actually build. If you build something and how it helps others. Does it help in saving them money? Does it help saving time? Does it help them, become more efficient, right? Like if you think about the way we transport things a long time ago, right? I take the good example of my home country, Sri Lanka. We use bullock carts, right? And to transport things from one place to another, right? And that was the same everywhere else in the world as well, right? Wheel was one of the greatest innovations that we had come across, right? And over time, what happened was that got, improved and innovate more and more. So from A to B, the transportation became faster and more efficient, right? Firstly, of course, the fast, you save time. Secondly, time means you can actually spend more time doing other things, right? It could be purely leisure, or it could be actually you are delivering something from one place to another, right? So previously you could just deliver one good, now you could deliver 10, because now you're actually traveling much faster. So your second part of the question, how does this relate to the cloud, right? Once again, the cloud terminology if I took it even way before 2006, Dell actually thought that Dell actually created cloud by inventing virtualization with the company they invested, VMware, right? So just because we say cloud helps you to innovate, what is the relationship? If you think about the computer innovation, 20, 30 years ago, was the processing power of each individual computers was very small, right? It could probably process 100 lines of code, right? And then over time, that got improved, the semiconductors got improved, and so on and so forth. So coming back to the cloud, why cloud, right? So companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, right? They had to run data centers, what we call, real estate, that we actually host computing infrastructure globally, not just as a single company, right? For them, for their clients, and so on and so forth. I mean, the good example is Google, right? Google had to build a search engine that actually scale to everyone. So you query from Sri Lanka, or I query from Australia, or someone query from US, they would get the results immediately, right? So how does this lead to innovation, right? The flexibility that I might be going into some of the other ones, so I won't go too much detail into it, right? But the flexibility that the cloud infrastructure, created by the likes of Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, gave the ability for the others to come and actually do things in a way that's actually more beneficial for you, either as a consumer or you as a company, right? Either it started saving you money, or it actually gave you more time to do many things, right? So I might actually take a pause there, because I think if I do go into more details on the innovation, it's actually going to lead up into the other things, right? But truly, in a summary, innovation means, are you increasing efficiency? Are you saving money? Are you doing things that the others are benefiting? That is, I think, the true meaning of innovation. And I don't think it's getting hidden by the marketing behind the cloud.
Yeah, thanks, Kanchana. I think it's a very broad spectrum, I would say, when you talk about innovation. So,
right, we probably can speak the whole half an hour or more.
yes. Yeah. So let me kind of my attention to Tharindu now. Tharindu, so in the piece of automation, I think that is some area which you are heavily involved in as well. So does innovation kind of complement automation and vice versa? What do you think automation is with respect to cloud?
Yes, Shahan. Automation is simply doing less manual tasks, right? That means we can focus our time and resources on doing tasks that is productive to the business innovation. So when talking about automation, we need to talk about innovation as well. By automation, we are losing the barriers of innovation. So we have three barriers in innovation, main barriers: cost, time, and the risk. So cost and time means the cost and time to convert an idea into reality. And the risk is the risk of failure or errors. So by automating our tasks, we are reducing the cost and time that it takes to convert an idea into reality. That is the time to value or time to market. And also, we are reducing the risk of errors, thus reducing the risk of failure. Thus, we are making it fail fast and fail cheap concepts of innovation, so that by automating, we can simulate all these criteria. So automation, by automating components, we can get benefits such as like saving our time, we can complete things faster, and also we have the lower risk of errors happening. When we talk about automation, cloud automation, there are native tools that is supported by cloud service providers. For an example, AWS, they have cloud formation templates. And also in Azure, they have Azure Resource Manager templates. And also there are popular third-party tools that are very popular these days, like Terraform and Ansible, that can be used to automate our cloud components. So all in all, we have benefits in both innovation and automation. We need to, by automating and innovating and automating, we need to focus our time-consuming tasks. We reduce our time-consuming tasks and focus our time and resources to grow our business and to deliver direct benefits to our business.
Okay, Tharindu, a quick question on the same lines now. So are you kind of ruling out that in on-prem environment, we can't have this automation and innovation done? So
no, Shahan, actually on-prem also we can do that. But what I am focusing is in cloud environment, it is easier to automate than on-prem environment because cloud service providers natively support automation, whereas on-prem, if we need to automate our on-prem environments, we need to implement certain tools. We need to integrate certain components that is not there natively. And also it will increase the cost of the components, cost of the deployment, and also it will be time consuming. And also it will increase the complexity of our solution by introducing all those third-party components. So when we talk about cloud, it is already there, it's built in. We can use the built-in services and do the automation easily.
okay, so even when we talk about virtualization, even something Kanchana also mentioned, like virtualize, that is the starting point of cloud as well. So still even the virtualization features that you have on-prem, the cloud, what we have is the native nature of that, right? Yeah. The provider handles that, so that gives us a lot of agility and flexibility in this sense, like to bring innovation on top of the platform, right?
Correct, sure.
So Kanchana, other area is like this notion of agility. I think this has been discussed very heavily around the world, I would say. Like a lot of concepts are built on agility, and I think there are evidence popping up that the more agile companies manage to sustain this pandemic situation as well. So agility, how I see, is like it's more close to the business side of things, like the ideating side of things. But when you really convert an idea or an agile mindset towards a technology angle or towards a platform, so how does that piece kind of strings together, Kanchana? What are your views on that?
Yeah, I think again, I probably need to take a couple of examples from the historical background, right? So the whole agile concept started about, I think, 3 decades ago or so, right? When they looked at the way the Japanese manufacture cars, right? How the Japanese people are able to manufacture cars more efficiently, better quality than the US, right? And what they saw was they brought in concepts that are smaller and easy to fix and get a concept out very quickly, right? That kind of led to people like Mary Poppendieck and so on and so forth to bring that concept into the software industry as well, right? The industry, we all are involved today, right? So very good example, like you mentioned, how I started my cloud journey back in like 2006 when AWS was releasing EC2. When you look at it, 2006, AWS had only very few, you could probably the number of fingers in your hand, right? That many services, right? Very small number of services. But with being an agile and, bringing that, the breaking things down into smaller components and trying out and repetitively improving them, make them like today, when you look at it, they got like thousands and thousands of services. Like Tharindu said earlier, one of the biggest challenges of making things automated in on-prem is we do have virtualization, but we don't have any of the other services how cloud providers has actually put on, right? Not that we couldn't. I think people, one thing to innovate and another thing to is also get a little bit lazy about your innovation, right? I mean, VMware, for example, actually had that opportunity to bring kind of similar services how Amazon and Google and the others did, right? But they weren't agile. They weren't agile and nimble in the back those days. Of course, they're becoming more agile and nimble now, right? So breaking down what is agility, to me, the agility is ability to break things into smaller chunks, right? And try out those chunks in a very fast and efficient way, right? Because like Tharindu also said earlier, if you want to fail fast. So you're taking from idea into production, you want to try it out very quickly, right? Concepts like minimal viable product and so on and so forth came around this, right? So the companies, as you mentioned, Shahan, during the pandemic, right, they were able to break things into smaller chunks, bigger problems. I'm not saying that they're not solving smaller problems. They are solving bigger problems in a smaller way. So they're able to give it to a smaller team. Like, for example, AWS had this concept called 2 pizza. If you can feed your team with 2 pizzas, that's the size of a team you want. And that's similar concept applicable to sports as well. If you look at cricket, soccer, all the sports, you got like number of players is limited because the captain can manage that, right? So you have more agility, right? The bigger your team is harder, right? And you obviously, if you watch Aussie rules or Australian football, you would see 15 players in, and half the time you don't know what other 5 or 6 players are doing, right? But so being that nimble and being able to break your bigger problem into smaller is gives you the edge to make it go faster and be more agile, right? And the companies who did very successfully, they thought pandemic was a big problem, but how do we break things down into smaller chunks and deliver? And at the end, you actually have a bigger, you're solving a bigger problem, right? And they were very successful. They thrived, right? They didn't think about that as a pandemic as a way to stop things and wait until everybody else solve the problem and come back, right? They thought, okay, yes, economically we are going to be hit, but let's break things down and try to address them one at a time. If we fail, we fail. If we are successful, we are very highly successful, right? And these cloud companies became really successful because they gave more and more tooling, like Tharindu said, offered off their platform and actually went ahead and enabled some of their providers to actually offer automation, things that they don't have to do so they can focus on what they're building, right? Rather than, they have to build all that from scratch. Yeah. That's kind of, to me, true agility. But, obviously, if somebody is interested, they should also read a little bit about the Toyota concepts and so on and so forth, which probably will bring you all the way how we got here.
That's very, yeah, thanks. That was kind of very interesting topic, I would say. Again, I mean, we can again go on talking.
That's right. We can go on all these 3 terms. Tharindu would agree. We can go on. Yeah.
Exactly. So Tharindu, a quick question for you, like now more of a, I would say more of a practical question. Like, okay, we talk about innovation, agility, automation, right? But when you put all these pieces together and make a platform, right? How do you see that platform? I mean, in architecture, how you like, I mean, if I put it very bluntly, like, can you just look into the console and see these things? Okay, agility is there, automation is there likewise. So how do you kind of take it?
Yes, Shahan, interesting question. Now, if we take an example architecture from an enterprise, we see 2 components there. Central component that is shared between all the other components, that is a shared services component, and also individual components connecting to this central component that we will be giving to individual application teams and developers. So this shared services component, we normally call it as the landing zone of the cloud platform. So a landing zone is typically an underlying core configuration in any cloud adoption framework. So this landing zone normally provides a pre-configured environment provision mostly through code. So basically, both all the cloud service providers support this landing zone concept. For an example, AWS has components like control tower and account vending machine, which supports the landing zone concept. Azure has concepts like Azure Blueprints, which supports this concept. So this landing zone or shared services component contains services like security, access management, networking, logging, and other compliance concepts that is necessary to maintain a standardized cloud platform across our enterprise. And then we have other components, individual components, subscriptions, tenants, connecting from all other places to this shared services component to consume the services. Both these components, the landing zone and the connecting components, are most probably developed or deployed through infrastructure as code concepts, Terraform or any other infrastructure as code concepts. And then probably we'll be using CI/CD tools to continuously integrate and deploy these components in our cloud platform. So that is basically a basic architecture that includes all these three components.
So sorry, since you brought up CI/CD, I just want to ask this question now. CI/CD more covers the infrastructure and the development piece, right? Deployment piece. So what about security now with these architectures? Now it is very demanding to have continuous security as well on cloud, right? So can these new methods facilitate those things as well?
Yes. Now, if we take this landing zone as an example, a landing zone has a life cycle. Now, in the day 0, we design the landing zone. And in day 1, we deploy the landing zone, and day 2 onwards, we do the operations. Now, the operations include maintaining the landing zone and introducing new features. We get new requirements day to day from the application teams and development teams. And we improve the landing zone by implementing those requirements and updating the landing zone. So that is a kind of a cycle, feedback loop. We improve, we install, we include new features and then get the feedback and again do some changes. So likewise, normally the compliance point, in the compliance point of view, traditionally we assess the compliance of our infrastructure maybe once a year or twice a year. But here, at any point of time, we can guarantee that our landing zone and connecting components are in compliance, security or any other compliance are in compliance with those levels, because this is continuously, we are using continuous integration and continuous development, deployment. So this will be continuously inspected, monitored, and also new features will be deployed and again, they will be monitored. So compliance level or security level will be continuous at any point of time.
Yeah, I think that's a very valuable point as well, because these days we get this all ransomware attacks, things like that all around the world. So having continuous compliance will really add value, right, for the entire ecosystem, I would say. So, so Kanchana, I mean, a natural question that will, pop up to anyone's head would be like, because these cloud platforms are very innovative in the sense, like a lot of new things are happening, right? Even sometimes we find it really hard to keep up with it as well. So with your experience and how you see the future now, what do you think which will happen next actually? What are the latest things? Even, I mean, what's your gut feeling on this area?
I think the three biggest players are very innovative players. I think one thing that they have probably learned from likes of the VMware and IBM and the others, you got to continue to innovate, right? And how could they offer services to the customers so the customers are truly focused on what they want to build, or service their customers, right? Take an example for a bank, right? So the banks, the objective and the goal is to actually sell more products and services to their, the consumers, or even, the other possibly retailers, right? And in so doing that, they can't focus on the infrastructure. They can't focus on building platforms themselves, right? They want to focus on how can I get my loan product out to the customer really quickly, right? So like Tharindu said, some of the things like, the landing zone, the control towers, the blueprints will evolve more into like platforms, right? So the configuration for those companies will become much, much simpler and easier, right? I mean, one example where we looked at, where the container workloads are heading, growing from virtualization into container workloads and serverless, right? Being able to run those workloads both on-prem as well as in the public cloud, right? How can you bring that agility without those development teams really have to spend a lot of time, or the operations teams have to spend a lot of time? I mean, one of the things I think Tharindu touched briefly on was DevOps culture heading towards no-op culture, right? That means a lot of automation. And where I feel is like these cloud providers will bring in those offerings. The good example is, I don't know whether you all heard about, recently, about a month ago, so Google released Kubernetes Autopilot. They call it GKE Autopilot, right? They took away the need for any managed service on if you're using Autopilot. It's a long way to go, but it's the right start, right? Even startups, even bigger companies now could benefit out of the newer technology without really having to figure out, how am I going to do my upgrades? How am I going to do my patching? How am I going to do my security, right? So those offerings will come more and more. They will become services these cloud providers will offer, right? It's going to be very hard for, if somebody was trying to do purely on-prem, to catch up, right? The on-prem public cloud, the bridge, the hybrid, that will not die away. That will stay on. But yeah, I can see more and more innovative offerings from these cloud providers coming in the way of more automation, no operations, right? So you will need less number of operation staff, but giving more power to the developers, right?
Yeah, thanks, Kanchana. I think we're kind of running out of time as well. There are a couple of more questions. I think we'll have to take it offline. We can discuss it among ourselves. Thank you very much, Kanchana. Thank you very much, Tharindu, for sharing your experience. And it has been a very good, informative session, I would say. So it's a pleasure to have you both on the panel. And also, hats off for the organization team. I mean, it has been, it's not an easy task to put up something like that. So thank you all. So we'll hope to see you at the next Sri Lanka Internet Day.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.